Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are going to dissect exactly how internet memes gain just unstoppable momentum. And to do that, we're diving into the ultimate forensic case study from back in 2019. We're going to look at how a simple, kind of silly idea on social media escalated into a full-blown global event that literally forced the United States military to issue public warnings. If we Naruto run, we can move faster than their bullets. Let's see them, aliens. You probably remember this, right? This wildly absurd call to action sparked an absolute global phenomenon. And to understand how a joke achieves escape velocity and turns into a cultural tidal wave, we really need to trace its life cycle from a tiny digital spark to a very literal, real-world collision. Section 1. The fertile ground. Creating viral momentum. So look, memes rarely just happen in a vacuum. They really need rich existing cultural lore to take root. I mean, for decades, highly classified U.S. Air Force projects seeded the public imagination with UFO conspiracy theories. The official Roswell report is really just one piece of that giant puzzle. From the CIA's declassified documents regarding overhead reconnaissance to the testing of the U-2 and the A-12 Oxcart programs out in the Nevada desert, the government was conducting very real, very secret operations, and because the public had no idea what was actually being tested, the skies were just filled with mysteries. It provided the absolute perfect historical backdrop for alien lore. And you know what's really interesting? It's how the actual extreme security measures out Area 51 fed right into this mythology. This wasn't just some chain link fence with a keep out sign. The perimeter was famously guarded by private security contractors that everyone colloquially called camo dudes. And inside the base, it was even more intense. Visitors and contractors were actually sometimes required to wear blindfolds or these vision-restricting glasses known as foggles when moving about the clandestine flight test center. This extreme, almost above-the-law level of security only heightened the mystery. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive contrast that fueled all this lore. On one hand, you've got this hyper-serious, completely humorless government secrecy, but on the other, exploding internet alien myths. And this contrast was absolutely supercharged back in 1989 when a man named Bob Lazar went on Las Vegas television and claimed he'd worked at a secret facility called S4 near Area 51. His job, supposedly, to reverse engineer the propulsion system of a non-human craft. Now, whether you view Lazar as a fabulist or a genuine whistleblower, his claims cemented Area 51 as the holy grail of extraterrestrial conspiracies. The ground was now fully fertile. Section 2. The spark. Creating the meme. All right, so fast forward 30 years to the summer of 2019. Picture this. A 20-year-old retail clerk from Bakersfield named Maddie Roberts is just hanging out, watching a Joe Rogan podcast featuring none other than Bob Lazar. Totally inspired, he creates the Storm Area 51 They Can't Stop All of Us Facebook event on June 27th. And he did it as a pure shitpost. Now, shitposting is basically the act of posting content online with intentionally ironic, trollish, or just poor quality. It's an incoherent joke, which is a total hallmark of internet humor. Roberts wasn't seriously trying to organize a militia here. He was just playing into the wild absurdity of the internet. So the absolutely crucial question is, why did this specific joke catch fire? Well, the humor lay in the sheer, undeniable absurdity of the pitch. He was literally suggesting that by deploying the running style of the anime character Naruto Uzumaki, running with arms stretched out behind you, head down, torso tilted forward, a crowd could successfully overwhelm heavily armed U.S. military contractors. It was this perfectly crafted collision of niche internet anime culture and decades-old government conspiracy. It was just utterly irresistible to the digital world. Which brings us to Section 3, the amplifier, going mainstream. Now, a funny joke isn't really enough on its own to become a global news story. But this timeline shows the staggering acceleration of that viral momentum. I mean, for the first few days, the event just sat quietly on Facebook with like 40 RSVPs. But then, it hit the algorithmic sweet spot. Once a piece of content demonstrates high engagement, social media algorithms begin serving it to wider and wider audiences. The growth curve literally went vertical almost overnight. And it obviously didn't stay contained to Facebook. The joke spread like a total contagion through cross-pollination. It jumped straight to Reddit, TikTok, and Instagram, spawning thousands of satirical posts detailing these complex, hilariously bad strategies for breaking into the base. The virality became so massive that the original creator, Maddie Roberts, actually became terrified that the FBI was going to show up at his front door. The momentum completely peaked when the meme achieved mainstream saturation, and suddenly, massive corporations were piling on for marketing clout. Look at this. You had rapper Lil Nas X dropping a music video for an Old Town Road remix all about the raid. Bud Light was out there promising free beer to any alien that made it out, and even released an alien-themed label. Arby's planned a special menu delivery. Meanwhile, everyday internet users spawned these bizarre copycat raids, targeting everything from a Utah church vault to Loch Ness to the Bermuda Triangle. The internet had for sure completely lost its mind. Finally, Section 4, Memes Meet Reality. The aftermath. So what actually happens when unstoppable digital momentum collides with cold, hard reality? Well, over 2 million people officially RSVP'd going online, with another 1.5 million marking themselves as interested. Let that number sink in for a second. Millions of people. To put that into perspective, that's enough people to pack dozens of massive sports stadiums. And this was enough to prompt very serious warnings from the U.S. Air Force, explicitly discouraging anyone from attempting to enter military property. Local Nevada law enforcement agencies even started bracing for a potential humanitarian disaster out in the desert. But on the actual day of the raid, September 20th, only about 150 people physically showed up at the heavily guarded gates of the Nevada Test and Training Range. Yep, 150. Out of 2 million clicks. A few people held satirical protest signs, some took photos, but nobody Naruto ran past the bullets, and absolutely nobody got inside. Realizing a literal military raid was impossible and, highly illegal, the remaining momentum kind of pivoted. So instead of storming a secure facility, a modest crowd of about 1,500 people gathered in the tiny nearby towns of Rachel and Heiko to attend a pair of hastily organized rural music festivals called Alien Stock and Base Camp. The whole meme essentially mutated into a peaceful, quirky desert party. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole explainer. The Storm Area 51 phenomenon proves that while memes can absolutely hijack global attention, draw in massive corporations, and even force official government responses, digital momentum rarely survives the collision with physical reality. It leaves us with this final, really provocative question. If 2 million clicks only equal 150 bodies at the gate, what other digital movements today are mistaking online virality for actual real-world power? Think about that the next time you see an unstoppable wave taking over your timeline.